And I think that's where the risk is.
Sounds a little bit like you were saying that a lot of the exploration in the future might be non-U.S. Could be Chinese, Japanese, Russian, European. Is that realistic? And if so, how would that impact Canadian efforts?
I think it's tremendously realistic. The fact that, as you say, the Chinese, they have achieved in a fraction amount of the time what it took the U.S. to do in 20 or 30 years. They've already, I'm trying to remember the numbers, but they basically in the mid-90s said that we're going to put humans in space. And sure enough, within 8 years, you're basically starting from nothing, except for a reasonably nascent, well, not nascent, but a reasonably stable satellite launch program. They went from nothing in the way of human space exploration to, in 5 or 6 years, developing human-rated spacecraft and actually launching their first astronaut in 2003. Very shortly thereafter, they launched another spacecraft with 2 astronauts. And now they're already on the drawing board for Chinese space stations, other, landing Chinese on the moon, doing Mars. And they've said it that they're going to do it with or without cooperation from anybody. and they've basically stepped forward and said, it basically paralleled the U.S. milestones and said by 2018 there's going to be a Chinese human presence on the moon. And they've extended sort of, we would like the world's help, and they've gone to the U.S. and said, hey, we'd like your help on that. And the U.S. has basically turned a blind eye because of other political issues and said, sorry, we're not interested in helping you. And the Chinese are saying, okay, well, that's fine, we're going to go and do it anyway. So I'm of the mind that, a little bit of healthy competition, gets us places faster. So I think it's totally reasonable that you're going to see other nations. India is another one. Believe it or not, and this just boggles my mind still, Malaysia has an astronaut program. They have astronauts that are going into space and going on the shuttle, and I think it was on, they haven't been on the shuttle yet, but they're on the Russian Soyuz capsules and getting involved in the space station. And here's a country that has no space, aside from maybe small technology development, has no launch capability, has no spacecraft in orbit. They farm it all out to other countries, but they have an astronaut program. So I think it's totally reasonable to see other countries doing this on their own.
In fact, just quickly, I just read a report that the Chinese goal is, in fact, to put a 7-year-old girl in a red dress on the moon where she can sing "Ode to the Motherland." So that's just fresh off the yeah, just echoing some of Kevin's comments quickly. The issue of why the Americans won't talk to the Chinese is because the Chinese human spaceflight program currently is directly run by the People's Liberation Army, whereas the human spaceflight programs of the other spacefaring nations are, well, at least nominally run by civilian agencies. But I guess my concern would be, again, echoing some of my earlier comments, from a scientific and a technical standpoint, this is all well and good. It's when you overlay this with political and geopolitical considerations. And I would personally be kind of concerned if this were to become another sort of a space race type thing. And I know some space geeks are really into that sort of thing, and I sort of respectfully disagree with them, because I think that a program that is built on that kind of a premise of sort of like a Cold War type competition with somebody out there ultimately is, well, first wasteful, and second of all, it's not a sustainable thing, and that this will sort of peter out once some arbitrary goal is won, as was the case with the Apollo program of there was a question here?
Yeah, you were speaking about how with all these shuttle missions, experiments were done that help with the analysis of weather and all these other things, and the extension of human life. Well, I was thinking in the past we have benefited from those things, but maybe now, you know, life is, human lifespan is long enough, maybe it's too long, because we don't have the economic resources to support these aging populations as well. And now, if it's the case that all this is being concentrated and focused on the objective of life existing on another planet, and it's just a few, and I'm not going to be one of those few, why should I help fund it?
I give the hard questions to you.
I suppose when it comes to space exploration, I think with a lot of things that require sort of mass cooperation at the national level, whether you specifically want to fund it or not is an entirely personal choice. If Canadian Space Agency went around with a hat and said, "Give us a buck," or
if that's the truth, why would 99.999% of the population want to fund it, since they're not going to Mars? If that's the truth, I mean, it seems to me like scientists waver about this, but if that's the objective, if that's the truth, that all this is being concentrated that objective now, why should the masses of populations on Earth do it? Take part in that?
and not to go in bad form or anything and answer a question with a question. If that was true, then why would you have things, you know, these armchair enthusiasts? You have armchair astronomers. They don't do any of the research, but they live vicariously through the explorations of the astronomers out there. That's why we have things like, you know, astronomy magazines. It's like, well, I'm not doing the astronomical research, but I just find it interesting. And this doesn't just pertain to space exploration, right? I mean, you look at any human adventure thing, reality TV, right? I don't want to be stuck on a desert island with 8 people I don't know with a chance that they're going to vote me off, but I'll watch somebody else do it for an hour and get my kicks.
So I can see the good and healthy forms of entertainment and some not so much, and this is a bad one.
There was an interesting point that you made in part of your question, that is, well, and please correct me if I'm not expressing this correctly, but you said something along the lines of, well, going out there, maybe exploring or settling other places out there, it is all well and good, but this is so far in the future that, you know, I personally will have nothing to do with this, so why should we, I guess collectively, as a society or as taxpayers, support this kind of thing? Did I get the gist of that?
Actually, I don't think it's so far in the future. I think most of us here may see this, the development of it. I mean, there's going to be a growing awareness that the vast majority of us are going to be left behind. This is what I'm asking. Is this the truth? And if it is, which I think it is, I mean, you know, this is what Stephen Hawking has been talking about. Why don't they openly declare it, and then everybody should judge whether this is a good thing? I mean, you mentioned it before, people will judge. I mean, who's judging that these things are good and bad, and to, you know, are the right people judging or enough people judging? And
that's, I think, very much a policy decision that is supposed to be made by our leaders. But again, there's a very interesting point in there, in that if we look at a lot of polls, sort of interest or support for government-funded space programs in a lot of industrialized countries, even the United States, is at best level and at worst in some cases declining. For example, there is not right now a lot of interest or political support in what's, I guess, been called Plan Bush to send people back to the moon. And part of the reason for that is that it is not, the government human spaceflight program is in many ways a spectator sport, in that it's not participatory for people, for common people, for example, like you or I.